Live from the mist-enshrouded mountaintop fortress that is X and Y Communications headquarters, you're listening to the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. And now, here's your host, Scott McKay.
Greetings, gentlemen. Welcome to yet again another episode of the world-famous Mountaintop Podcast. I am your host, Scott McKay, at Scott McKay on YouTube, where we have videos 2 minutes and under that will reveal the real answer to some shop-worn dating advice for which there's usually pretty crappy answers. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please go to youtube.com/Scott McKay and do so. Also at Scott McKay on Twitter and pretty much everywhere else. If you want to go to the website, and of course you do, it's mountaintoppodcast.com. And I also, as always, invite you to join us on the Facebook group, which is the Mountaintop Summit. With me today is someone who I met a long time ago, but just recently made friends with. You have anybody like that in your life? You've known of them and maybe you've met them a couple times, and then finally you meet each other socially and realize, oh my goodness, you and I are getting along. Guys are like every girlfriend I had in college who I fawned over for 2 years till I finally had the guts to ask her out as a junior. Yeah, okay, I understand that. But this isn't really like that. She's been in my industry for years and years. I first met her at the iDate convention of all places, which is a convention, as advertised, for insiders in the internet dating industry. And she was big time into that. And I was there once. So later on, I hear she's doing a podcast, and of course so am I, and I reached out to her, and the rest so far is, well, I'm not going to say it's history. It's in progress as we speak. I was on her show, and that conversation got rave reviews from her audience, so now we're going to give you the gift of a conversation with my new friend, Julie Ferman, that I hope lives up to that expectation. Hope is not a strategy, is it, Julie? We need to just crush this.
You are the greatest, Scott. I'm so glad we reconnected. It's like I talk about there's my people and not my people. Scott McKay is my people.
Well, I don't know about being the greatest. I'm going to reserve that for Muhammad Ali. He gets to sit.
I don't know. I think you got like shock jock kind of appeal.
Oh, no. Oh, good. Is that why I get shadow banned so many places?
Well, it's just you're fun and upbeat, and I can say anything, and it's flirtatious. I like it. So you can ask anything. Well,
see, now you're a matchmaker.
Yeah.
So you're the queen of flirtation.
Yes, it's one of my superpowers, and I teach people how to do it.
Well, it is a superpower. It absolutely is. If you know how to flirt effectively, then basically every one of the other gender will love you.
Well, yeah, and it's instinctive. Babies are the best flirts ever.
Isn't that true?
We unlearn how to flirt as we get older because, we get afraid and we get wounded. And what will people think? Babies don't care.
Babies don't care. I live I know you do too. You are split time between Los Angeles and Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Yeah. How does that sound for a great way to live?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And in the Mexican American culture, there's actually a term for innocent baby flirting. They just call it coqueta. Which, of course, is coquettish, which is an English term. But apparently in Mexican Spanish, that's a term that's much more mainstream. It's used quite often. Whereas if someone's coquettish in English, we just say they're flirtatious. You know what I mean? And get on with it. But yeah, that's exactly what happens. Like you're having breakfast, and this little 2-year-old girl with pigtails, pokes her head up at the booth in front of you and just wrinkles her nose at you.
There's nothing more adorable. I think I'm going to change my middle name to Coqueta.
Coqueta. Well, you could write like a melodrama or a comedy or something like that and have one of the characters be named Coqueta.
Oh, that's perfect.
And just have her be like really slutty.
Do you want to know what the 3 levels of flirting are? I've got it down to a quick little 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would love to hear that. And then we can go produce our movie that has a Madeline Kahn, Madame Stoop character in it and name her Coqueta.
Sign me up.
All right, project. Tell me about those 3 levels of flirting. I was born to hear those.
Yeah, the first level of flirting is what we call turning the cab light on. And guys are begging me to beg women to do this because especially since Me Too thing happened and especially since COVID happened, we've all gotten kind of out of practice with flirting. So it's really up to the women. And so often when two people have found each other, I asked them, how'd you meet? How'd you meet? She got in there and stirred the pot. So it's turning the cab light on, smiling, looking at him directly in the eye, looking away, and then looking back and smiling again. And then he knows that the smile is for him. Then you find yourself in each other's vicinity. Somebody makes a move and you start chatting about absolutely nothing. And the third part is so critical. I want all women out there to have a calling card so that she can just say, Scott, this was so much fun to chat with you today. Here's how to find me. Oh, and by the way, my friends and I plan some really fun singles parties. If you happen to be single, we'll invite you.
Wow. You got this down.
Oh, yeah, baby. 33 years I've been doing this.
All right. So couple things there. First of all, for everybody west of the Hudson, what does turning on your cab light mean?
Well, that means, if you're looking for a cab in the big city of New York and you see that the cab light is on, you know that they're open for business. So that's what we have to do. We have to let guys know that we're accessible, that we're willing to engage with them. And if we're looking down at our phone or if we have a scowl on our face, who wants to come up to that, right?
Well, wait a second. If you're looking at your phone, maybe you're looking for the available Uber driver because, the whole cab light thing is starting to feel expensive in the year 2023.
It's funny. I was in LA and I could not get an Uber driver to take me to the airport. Could not. They kept canceling it. It was so frustrating. So I went the old fashioned cab way and I got there cheaper.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you have a lot of luggage and you have to go Uber Black, it can get pricey.
No kidding. Or if it's just a surge time and it's just become so unreliable, especially in the big cities. That's when I realized, people are just not trustworthy like they used to be. You can count on people to not be trustworthy now.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. That's a whole podcast in and of itself. But, for now, cab light it is. All right. Okay. Now, you talked about all these women acting all coquette and smiling and looking away, looking over their shoulder, which is universally sexy for some reason that's unknown. Actually, I know the reason, but we're not going to get down that rabbit hole. But what's going on is a lot of guys out there are thinking, that's happened to me. Never. I mean, yeah, sure, Julie and Scott. Women are just looking at me smiling and looking over their shoulders and, trying to be all flirty with me constantly. Are guys just missing it, or does the guy have to kind of have a cab light of his own that shows he's good to flirt with, and it may be, and hopefully it's something different than being genetically gifted? What's the you on that?
Genetically gifted. It's like anything else. It's an energetic exchange. So if this guy's sitting over in the corner, pouting, looking at his phone, staring at the newspaper, he's not available for engagement. Both people have to be at some level willing and accessible, or ain't nothing going to happen.
Yeah. How about that? All these people out there, men and women, who go out there with resting bitch face and think like, well, nobody wants to talk to me. What's wrong with the other gender? They're just jerks. It's all their fault.
Back in the day when I used to be hormonal, I'm old enough now, I'm not hormonal anymore. But in the day that I would be in a really bad mood. I'm like, I just need you to put your arms around me and hug me. And he's like, that's the last thing I feel like doing right now, bitch.
I understand. See, that's married life. But truthfully, I get asked often, what do women want? And a lot of times women will roll their eyes when they hear I actually have an answer. And what I tell them is exactly what you just said, or a paraphrase thereof, right? Which is women want a man who can hold them, tell them everything's going to be okay, and be believable.
Yeah, women are always needing, it's instinctive. We need security. We need to know that we're safe. And if a guy kind of carries that level of trustworthiness in his persona, whoa, it's as simple as we're watching each other's behavior at the Starbucks, anywhere, the car wash, and we watch a guy hold the door open for somebody. That tells us right then and there, okay, this guy's got, courteousness. He's aware of what's going on around him. As opposed to if you see some guy walk out of the door at the car wash and the door slams on some sweet old lady. What does that tell you about that guy?
I've used that exact analogy before.
Really?
Like Mr. Nice Guy holds the door with this big cheesy grin on his face for this 22-year-old supermodel and lets it slam on the grandma behind her.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's not love for women. That's just being sex focused.
Yeah, it's what you do to everybody. Where you really practice your people skills is on the road, and it's where I watch how people are. And we do one thing, we do a lot of other things the same way, right? So I watch how people's character shows up when they're behind the wheel.
Yeah,
Yep.
because it's sort of anonymous until it isn't, and the firearms come out, right?
Oh, we just cut somebody. Oh my God, that was my boss.
Yeah, you're kind of mentioning that T. Harv Ekerish principle of how you do anything is how you do everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly what I look for. I look for evidence of who they really are, good, bad, or ugly. I want to know. So I like to watch. It's like that, what's that movie? I like to watch.
It's not the good, bad, and the ugly. I'll tell you that.
No, it's not.
Whatever that movie is, I don't think my wife would want to watch it with me.
Chauncey Gardner was the main character.
Yeah, okay. Well, it sounds like I should have
Being
heard
There.
of it.
It's called Being There.
Being There. Now that's a chick flick, isn't it?
No, my husband loves it. And he's the one who always says, I like to watch, because it came from that show.
Well, maybe my wife and I should watch, because, we do like to watch movies.
Oh, hilarious. It's a good one.
Yeah. There's a lot of hidden gem movies out there.
Yeah.
But anyway, don't want to digress. You're talking about a guy's energy being flirtatious energy and a woman reciprocating that. Both people there in that scenario are ready to meet each other. They're ready to flirt. And it seems
a guy has to be careful about the way he flirts, because if he comes on like a pickup artist, then the good girls will be like, oh yeah, right. I'm rolling my eyes and I'm giving you the number of a porn site instead of my real number.
Oh, 100%. For sure. Yeah. We've covered that on this show. These are good guys listening to this show, Julie. They're pretty high character guys who are mostly relationship oriented.
Where are they? They need to sign up on my website so I can find them and match them.
Well, see, my job is to help them find their own.
Well, yeah, and I want them to too. But what would be the problem with he's finding his own, and he just got a call from the matchmaker saying, oh my God, John, I have a woman for you. She's around the corner. Here's her profile. Here's her photos. What do you think? Doesn't cost him a dime.
Wow. So you're getting guys in the door and matching them to women who are customers.
Well, both ways. I have a huge database. We call it a database. 36,000 people I've registered in 20 years. And 2/3 of them, Scott, are females. Guys are so much harder to find. And I don't care who's paying me. I will do introductions. Why? Because I was the consumer first. My husband, he took my $1,450 at his dating agency, and I'm the one who forked out the dough. And then I realized later, oh my God, his database is pretty lacking. So I knocked on his door and said, hey, what's the story with you, pal? I did the flirting. I said, I looked in the G book under Gil and I didn't see you. What's the story with you? And he said, well, I'm not supposed to ask out my members. And I thought, damn, another good guy I can't date. So I said, what if one of your members asked you out? And he said, if she's cute, I'd probably go. I said, come on, let's go have a beer. And then 5 weeks later, we got engaged. And 5 months later, we got married. And that was 33 years ago.
Wow. How about that? So you moved very quickly, probably because you were spending a lot of time together. It wasn't like a long distance thing.
No, it's real simple. I needed to get him down the aisle before he knew what the hell a PMS cycle was.
Oh, yeah. Well, there you go.
Gil was 44, never married. He'd never lived with a woman before, except for his sisters. So he didn't know what comes with us, and I needed to make sure that he didn't know the whole story until the deed was done.
Something tells me I don't want to go there. Not with these guys. We're just going to scare more guys away from, believing women are these sweet, fluffy, precious creatures who just like to giggle,
Well, the truth of it is we're all flawed. We've all got stuff going on. But if both people have a commitment to commitment, and if both people are willing to learn and grow, make apologies, forgive, and stick together, come thick or thin, relationships are a beautiful thing and they're worth having.
Yeah, that forgiveness part is huge. When people start holding grudges and small things, fester into larger things over a period of months and years, that's when you're destined for divorce court. And it all started with something small or a series of small somethings. And then the next thing you know, you don't even know why you can't stand each other. You just know you want out.
Yeah. I think it's good to kind of be naive a little bit when we walk into marriage, because if we knew everything, we probably would never get married. And it's kind of nice to grow together and to be sad and frustrated together and work through it together. That's what love and life is all about.
Well, I think no matter what happens, life's going to throw you something unexpected without us having to work at it. I mean, that's the way life has been for our family. Emily and I going on 18 years now, and we adore each other. I think there was a 95-5 factor when we finally got married 9 months after we met. I say finally, but again, we were joined at the hip pretty much from day one. That, I was finding out things about her later on, but nothing's been a deal breaker, of course. I think at least the huge deal breaker things like how do you spend money? How do you raise kids? Who do you pray for? Who do you vote for? Wait, you and I have been going out for 3 years and now I realize you don't want to have a hamburger because you're a vegan. Those kind of things have to be covered first.
Right.
But the little things like the little nuances, minor skeletons in the closet, those can come out later. And I think you have to deal. But man, I tell you what, as much as a couple might want to build this happy, shiny life together, life happens around you and you've got to deal with it. And man, I'm so much happier in general that I have this little chick to go through life with and going it alone or with someone I can't stand. That much is for sure.
I love it. I love your relationship, the way you talked about it. There's something that I'm passionate about, which is making the dash that is between relationships really beautiful. That poem about the dash that our life is between birth and death. I think of the time in between relationships as being another type of a dash. And I want it to be full of growth, laughter, joy, expansion, contribution, adventure. That's what I want for people.
Julie, I think most people, it's DoorDash nowadays. That's it. That's the extent of it.
Goodness.
I completely left you flat-footed. I'm so sorry. Continue.
You are so cute. Yeah, I want people to enjoy the process of dating. I want them to be good at it, and I want them to not be so concerned about what's the result. Dating to find my one so that I can be not dating anymore and have a relationship. No. How about dating with the idea, what can I learn from this person? What am I curious about? What can I share with this person? How can I make this person smile? How can I make this 1 hour of my life and this person's life truly memorable, whether it ends up being another date or not?
Yeah, that brings us back to the central topic of this podcast, which is too busy for women, which is pandemic in this society, especially post-pandemic. It's like the new pandemic. That and people being just devoid of social skill for some reason, which you already mentioned, which I agree with wholeheartedly, by the way. But it seems like a lot of people do all this planning in their head, kind of in their off hours, because in a moment of downtime, maybe they're procrastinating, but they kind of weasel into their life these ideas of what I should be doing and who I want to date. And life is what happens while we're making other plans. We're just full of platitudes today, aren't we?
Yeah.
So what happens is people talk about it. People think about it. Men masturbate to it on porn, but we never get around to meeting people. And women will blame it on having to have a career and get ahead in their business. And then they wake up at age 40 and, oh my gosh, I need to have a baby like within the next 9 months or my eggs will dry up.
Right.
And men are busy with their careers, with their adventures. They're busy in their head saying, I'm never going to get married because then I'll be tied down. Those people don't like me very much because I'm living proof you can have more adventures than ever after you have the right woman in your life, and kids too, by the way. But people just get too busy, and they're also too busy to flirt. You were talking about this idea of flirt readiness before, which I think is fantastic. See, because in my mind, I realize guys tend to flirt in a binary way. And this is a well-traveled topic on this show. Guys have an on-off switch when it comes to flirting. Either I'm going to telegraph lurid sexual interest at you, like you mentioned with the pickup artist, or I'm just going to ignore you and pretend you don't exist because you might reject me. Meanwhile, women have like this dial, this flirt dial, right? By the way, I love database. As a branding guy, I'm smacking myself for not having thought of that myself. It's amazing. All right. So women have a flirt dial, right? They can talk to another man and simply acknowledge that he's male and he acknowledged she's female. And then from there, it can get a little more interesting. And then about 5, it starts to turn into sexual innuendo. And then by 9 or 10, it's really titillating, right? But men don't understand that. Men don't understand that even if I'm married happily and standing next to my wife right there at the grocery store checkout line, I can talk to the woman who's ringing up my groceries like she's a woman. It's not sexual at all. That's
Right.
why a 2-year-old toddler can wrinkle her nose at me, and it's, of course, completely innocent. I think a lot of guys, especially with the whole Jeffrey Epstein phenomenon, et cetera, and Me Too, they don't even know how to handle a 2-year-old little girl wrinkling their nose at them. All you do is wave back and say, "Oh, she's so cute." You're not a creep for doing that. There's nothing wrong with you for doing that. But I think a lot of guys have such a binary vision of flirting that they think there is something wrong with them for even acknowledging that a baby is female. I mean, I hope I'm coming off correctly here. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. And you know what I think is true about people being so busy? It's just an easier way to be than it is to be connected with other human beings. We're all afraid of each other. So we get busy and we stay busy and we're so busy. It's real simple when somebody wants to get together with another human being. Hey, you want to have dinner sometime? You want to go on that hike that we talked about, Scott? Tell you what, I'm free on Saturday morning and I'm free on Wednesday afternoon or after I get back in town on the 16th. We want to do it? Pick a day. Just do it. Don't tell him what you're doing, how busy you are. Oh, we can't do it Tuesday because I got my kids like soccer thing. And we can't do it Wednesday. He doesn't care. I tell women this all the time. The guys don't care. All they're hearing is roadblock, roadblock. And if a guy's doing it too, oh, I can't do that because I got this, I got that, I got all this stuff going on. Yeah, well, that's a lot easier than dealing with human emotion, which is what happens when we're dating and in relationship. I think a lot of this busyness is just a big, fat, simple excuse.
I agree with you 1,000%. What happens is when two busy people find the right person, Julie, these huge chasms of time somehow start magically showing up in their schedule for them to spend time together.
Yeah.
A miracle it is, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's like distance too. Time and distance. It may be a royal pain in the ass early on to fit each other in, but once there's a connection, mountains will move. I had this great couple that I wanted to introduce in the middle of COVID, and he's a snoot about not wanting to drive on the freeways in LA. So we had to have everybody near Pasadena where he lived. So I was very limited as his matchmaker in terms of who I could introduce him to. And he was super selective visually. So we wanted a girl who looked like this and that, but she had to be within a 5-mile radius. So it was crazy. So during COVID, I found this woman. I'm like, "Hey, Bill, you want to meet her?" He's like, "Oh my gosh, yes." And especially during COVID, maybe we can meet by Zoom or whatever, cook together, because it was the middle of lockdown. And I called her up, but she wasn't living there anymore. She moved down to San Diego to help her mom out. And her mom had this big, huge monster home. And she thought, well, I'll just work remotely from down here. So I put the two of them together on a Zoom call. It definitely wasn't convenient, right? San Diego to Pasadena. But they fell in love over Zoom. They had wine tasting together. They cooked the same recipes. He would send her a bottle of wine. Their first date was in Newport Beach at her aunt's house. She made the whole dinner and they were on her patio and they ended up in the pool. And it wasn't convenient at all at the beginning. But now they have this awesome relationship split between Pasadena and San Diego. And one weekend he's there, another weekend she's there. Sometimes they go to Peru. I mean, it's amazing.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm fascinated by how you brought fear into this conversation relative to being too busy. Because when you find the right person and now all of a sudden you have all this time, it really is exposed as an excuse.
Yeah.
And I think most excuses in general are fear-based.
Absolutely. Very well said.
Like procrastination. Most people are afraid that they won't do well or the job will get botched or they won't be appreciated for it or everybody will criticize them. It's always a matter of fear when we choose to run away from something.
Yeah, and it takes real courage is acknowledging that.
Well, it's the first step, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why am I making this excuse that I'm so busy? What is it that I'm trying to avoid? Maybe it's avoiding not knowing about PMS cycles until you're already married. I don't know. Could be anything. It could be I've been hurt in the past. It could be I've been reading too many red-pilled articles and watching too many MGTOW videos on YouTube and I've become jaded. It could be I'm too old, too fat, too ugly, too poor for this, instead of maybe lifting yourself up by your own bootstraps. I know that's a horrible thing to say nowadays because it makes you into a terrible terroristic person to expect someone to actually not be a victim nowadays. But I go there anyway, right?
Yeah, right.
And people, men in particular, have to take the lead, and they have to get over themselves a little bit. I mean, I think that's another problem, Julie, is people are so self-absorbed, so self-focused, because they've been spending so much time with themselves. I mean, that started with the internet, but it was just exacerbated by COVID, that now the idea of getting out of that comfort familiarity zone and getting out there and doing something involving other people, let alone a woman who could reject them, just seems like they can't even. It's too much, you know?
I have the antidote to that.
Do it. Let's do this thing.
I discovered it yesterday. I had to fix my husband's Google account. Somehow I just made a mistake. We had to reset everything. It was going to take 6 hours, right, for Google to determine that, yes, it was actually us trying to mess with the account. So my husband was without his phone. I said, honey, are you going to be okay, like for 6 hours without your phone? And he got all excited. He said, yes, I'll just pretend it's like the old days when I actually was present, looking around and talking to people like normal people used to. And he had a beautiful day yesterday. And he said one of the reasons why is because he didn't have his phone anywhere near him. You really want to shake things up in your life. Leave your stupid phone and all of your devices at home and go out for a day and look people in the eye and smile.
Well, first of all, Google will let any rando hacker have control of your account in like a second and a half, but they need 8 hours to get the real person who it actually belongs to verified. Great, right? Yeah.
Right.
Welcome to technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if it is a company and you owe money to them, they'll take your money right now. If they owe you money, the check will be in the mail 4 to 6 weeks from now, even though it's the year 2023.
Welcome to the world of trust. It's because we don't trust each other.
Yeah, I know, right?
The morality and the courteousness has just gotten worse and worse. First, there were cars, like, people treat each other really badly in the big cities on the freeways. But then now with our devices, we can be whoever we want to be. We can say whatever we want. Common courtesy has gone out the window.
Yeah, I agree. And people are wimps. They puss out. They hide behind the anonymity of the internet or the insulation of being able to click an off switch. And it's a disaster. It's pathetic is what it is. And I talk about this nowadays in terms of silent tantrums. That's what I've been talking about with guys lately. Whereas, if someone is on Twitter and they say something you don't like, or someone on Facebook, has a dissenting opinion and, oh my God, it might actually be valid, you block them. You just cut them off. And I call that a silent tantrum. No one will ever really know what the emotions looked like because you did it all in secret. But the whole I blocked you because you don't agree with me, or just running away from things, I think is a symptom of the larger problem that is facing society nowadays, which is we think we're connected. We think we have lots of friends, and really we're just stacking numbers of friends and compiling statistics and saying, oh man, look how popular I am. And there are no actual real human beings ever involved anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah. And how about when I got a super nasty review about me and my sweet company, which is like my third child. I'm the most ethical matchmaker living on the planet. I get this nasty review from somebody who did a consultation with me. And I don't promise introductions at consultations. I can't. It's 2 hours of my time, 1 hour of their time. And I do a great job with it. So she writes this horrible, horrible review, but it's not under her real name. So I can't reach out and talk to her. So it's just there like a stain. And it's just, it represents how much weenie we've all become.
I've had similar things happen. I've had people write me, for example, and this has happened relatively recently, in an attempt to forward my email to another guy who they think would get something out of it. Women in particular will do this to guys who they think need a little sharpening up, like their brother or their cousin or something. Well, here's the email I wanted to send you. I don't like this guy. I don't like how he puts women who are in bikinis at the top of his newsletter. I don't like his macho attitude. But he's right on this one, and I wanted you to see it. But instead of forwarding it to the guy, she hit reply, and it ends up in my mailbox, right?
Oh.
And I don't respond to it. I'm a big boy. I'm over this. I got 60,000 people on my email list currently, and I got to have a thick skin or I'll die here.
That's right.
Right. So what happens is the next morning I get a panic email from her scolding me and lecturing me. don't print it. Don't use my name. Don't talk about it. Well, I'm talking about it now. So I guess I'm violating her trust, aren't I? But I'm not telling you who she was or where she was from or reprinting it or giving you the gory details. But it's just so indicative of what you're saying. Is she wouldn't tell me this to my face. And when she realized she just did, she became white as a sheet and then responded not contritely, but with threats. You know, I mean, it's a fear fest out there, man.
It is a fear fest. And call me nuts, but I'm nuts, but I'm a freak, but I'm more hopeful about the impact I can make in people's lives now than ever, because it is so nasty. And it's like, I spend time with people and they're like, wait a minute, you actually believe in love. You actually are loving. You're actually the real deal. You're actually helping people find relationships and get along with each other. And I'm like, yeah. So because there's such a vacuum, the kind of work that you and I do is so badly needed. People like love us and they just follow us around. And what can I do with you next? And it's why I created a boot camp, because there's this huge gap between the consultation that I offer and personal matchmaking. Because honestly, most people should not hire a matchmaker. Do you want to know why?
They should hire me instead.
Well, yeah, they should do the coaching first. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think coaches and matchmakers should work together more.
Well, we try to, but here's the issue. People who come to matchmakers typically have been striking out for whatever the reasons are, but they just want somebody to fix it. Just get it. Julie, match me. Just match me. Come on, match me with the perfect person. Well, you know, I got a genie sitting here on my desk, and that's who I'm going to be in my next life. I'm going to charge everybody $100,000. I'm going to be able to just whip it out of a hat, you know, like build a bow workshop. And I'm going to be so wealthy. I'm going to solve all the problems in the world with the money I'm going to make. But in this lifetime, you know, I don't have anything if I want to make an introduction until I've got the yes from the guy. You want to know why?
Tell me.
You know why. You know why. Because
no, you tell me.
If you are a single guy and you really want a relationship, I don't care how persuasive that matchmaker is, until you know about this person, especially until you see a photo of this person, face shot and body shot, there is nothing I can do to inspire you to want to get up off the couch or off of your computer and go out and court her properly. You need to be attracted first.
Absolutely. All these guys who are trying to impress women with all their credentials, all these people out there, men and women, trying to look for common interests and Ermagerd, you and I like the same band. None of that matters a whit until they're attracted to each other. Then when they're attracted to each other, every little thing is a sign from God himself that you're perfect for each other, you know?
But the thing that women don't know is, and I tell them every day of my life 100 times over, that it has to start with the attraction level at a sufficient level for the guy. You guys have equipment. It needs to work in order for the species to survive. It's that basic. And women think, oh, if I like that hot guy at the bar, I'm just going to target him. First, you got to know, is this guy single? Is he available? Does he want a relationship? Number two, does he think you're attractive? Does he find you attractive? And my sister says, we only have a shot with the guy who thinks we're hot. And it's so true.
Well, I think that kind of goes both directions. I think, you know, there has to be interest level on the woman's part or the guy's not going to get anywhere. And a first impression does matter, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but here's the secret. You guys should know this. And all the guys listening, it's going to be such good news. We have a far better ability than you guys do to develop attraction over time. We have a term for it. We call it the Adam Sandler effect. So what that means is, if I might take a look at you from across a crowded room and think, he's not really my type, you know, but, you know, nice guy. But then all of a sudden you make me laugh. You change my tire. You seem to me to be somebody who's trustworthy. And by the second time I'm with you, by the third time I'm with you, I find you adorable and I actually would kiss you. That's the power that we have as women. If we sense character, kindness, humor, fun, security, safety, you bet we want to kiss you.
Yeah, it's all about security and safety. Then if you can make her laugh, that's a superpower. Then the clothes fall off, Julie.
You know, it's funny, though. Women say, I want a guy who can make me laugh. Yeah, good luck with that. I know women who cannot be made to laugh.
Well, that's a personal problem. That's on them. That's not on the guy.
But it's like, the woman with the scowl on her face wondering why men are approaching her. It's like, come on, you got to bring your laugh with you, for goodness sake.
One time my wife and I were getting on a flight and we were walking through business class and there was this woman basically man-spreading, the female version of it.
Lovely.
Looking at her laptop like she was angry at the freaking world and she was in control of it at the same time. And as soon as we got past her seat, I whispered into my wife's ear, I know why she's single.
Yeah.
And she just started busting out laughing. Right. The woman turns around all annoyed. What are you laughing at? Actually, that last part didn't happen, but I would have loved had it did. Anyway, it sounds like people are really scared more than they're busy because everybody's got the same 24 hours in a day. It's just a matter of what are you prioritizing, and you're going to deprioritize that which you're procrastinating against because you're scared of it. And I think a lot of people just straight up, flat out, are procrastinating when it comes to finding love. Julie, they know they don't have their entire life to figure this out. They know as soon as they find the right person, they're going to wish they would have found this person a long time before they started procrastinating. All of us, like you said, we know this. We should know this, but yet we wake up tomorrow and we keep doing what we did yesterday and we blame it on busyness because in the year 2023, hell yeah, we got to blame it on something other than ourselves, right?
Yeah, right. It's hilarious. Well, I tell you, I am hopeful and I have a lot of faith that we're going to be able to get through this mess. The messes that are out there are just causing good people like you and me to innovate. So I was doing some analysis yesterday because of COVID and the way we all had to start working from home and doing our Zoom calls and all of that. I had already started because I moved half of my life to Santa Fe and I did most of my work in my Santa Fe office. But it's really been fascinating because I've developed all these efficiencies, scheduling calls, doing Zooms, payment online. I can do so much more for people so much more efficiently. And the work that I get to do for people is so much of a blessing because, there you are looking for love and all of a sudden, ding, 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 you get a text message and it's your matchmaker saying, hey, Scott, when we got together for that Zoom consultation a year and a half ago, well, guess what? I have somebody awesome for you to consider. I'm going to send her profile over so you can look at it. If you're interested, you just click the yes button or tell me, and then I get to pitch you to her. And if she says yes, guess what? You get to meet her. Well, do I have to pay money? No, you don't. All we did was a consultation, and this is a free introduction, and isn't it lovely? I call it a mitzvah match. Do you know what a mitzvah is?
Like a bar mitzvah or a bat mitzvah?
It's a Jewish term. My husband's Jewish, and it's a blessing. It's a good deed. So during COVID, I was bored stiff because all 10 of my personal matchmaking clients went on inactive status. Nobody knew how bad it was going to be. Nobody wanted to meet out there in the real world. So I figured I'm either going to develop a 5 o'clock martini habit or I'm going to start doing what I always wanted to do, which is let's make introductions for free.
In other words, you have to get verschnickert or you'll end up mashugana.
You got it. So I started doing introductions for free as a test to see what would happen if I started introducing people, not just the people who were spending $10,000. What if I decided I wanted to introduce Emily and Scott without either one of them being my $10,000 client? What might happen? It had never been done before. And it was amazing. I'm seeing even more of a success rate with my free introductions than I am for my high-level client introductions. Why do you think that would be?
Because you're a troublemaker, not a matchmaker.
I am a troublemaker. Matchmakers are so mad at me for doing it, but I don't care because I always wanted to know what would happen. And I also wanted to know, is there a problem with people who go and hire matchmakers? Is there's a reason why they're not doing better? And sometimes there is. And matchmakers can't solve the problem, not without coaching, not without feedback. Hey, Scott, you know what? I've gotten some pretty consistent feedback. I wonder if you would want to hop on the phone and talk about it. I make you beg for it. You'd say, well, I don't know. I think I'm doing pretty well. And I say, well, I've heard some things that might be helpful for you to hear, but you have to really want it. So if you want it and you want me to tell you like your big sister, jump on a call with me and I'll tell you. I make them beg for it. And then I can say, here's the deal, sweetie. You're going in for the kiss way earlier than it would be appropriate, and it's grossing the girls out. Can you cut that out?
Well, at least you're straightforward about it.
Yeah, but I'm like big sisterly, warm, sweet. I mean, sometimes I'll take it a little farther than I should, and I'll regret it, and I'll, apologize. But for the most part, I got to say the things that nobody else is going to say. If he's got bad breath and I'm hearing about it, if his teeth are crooked and yellow and that's why the girl doesn't want to kiss him, well, he should probably know about it. So, because that's something you could fix.
Yeah. Yeah. As a coach, I have to level the same information sometimes, especially out in field. And I try to be al dente about it because I'm certainly not perfect and I don't want to come off like I'm holier than thou or whatever. So you have to actually do this with a nice bedside manner. But I mean, if that message is never delivered, then that person's going to continue on making the same mistakes or in the same state they were before and never improve. And by God, Julie, that's what they pay us to do, is help them get the right person into their life.
Yeah, I just love having the chance to do both coaching and matchmaking. My last 2 weddings are so incredible. Neither one of these guys was going to get there without a lot of beautiful, wonderful hand holding. They were both widowed. And then one guy had another marriage after that was just awful. And what was he doing on his dates? He was talking about it over and over. And the other guy who was widowed was talking about his former wife over and over. So through enough feedback and practice, literally role playing, how can you tell that story in 30 seconds instead of 15? Oh, it can't be. Oh, yes, it can. And I'll role play with it and I'll get it down to 3 minutes. Okay, Scott, that was great. You did it in 3 minutes. Now do it again in 30 seconds and only hit the high notes. Don't bring the yucky stuff. Just tell me the story in a positive way. 30 seconds, go.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. Darn Skippy for sure. Women don't have time to hear 15 minutes worth of sad stories on a date or hear you recount all your stories about your wonderful deceased wife or your exes, God forbid. We're all too busy for that. So if we go on dates and we aren't efficient, I mean, maybe this is sad but true, but we do have to be more efficient. I mean, look at apps. Apps are like you have a millisecond to decide whether you're going to pursue something with this person or not. I mean, if you're actually on Hinge, maybe you read through a few things, but it's almost feeling like eHarmony and Match.com. Nope, ain't nobody got time for them anymore. Just too much to go through. And yet this is the most important thing in people's lives, and they're too busy for it. That's the irony I've always found to be the case.
I think brevity is a blessing. My husband and I have this really fun social group. I run it for him. It's just a blast. If you ever come to Santa Fe, come to one of our parties. But what I asked people to do in the last one, I got myself a microphone, one of those portable mics, a good quality one. And we did a stand up, but you had to do it. You could say anything you wanted. It had to be less than 60 seconds. We had a shepherd's hook so we could pull them off the stage if they went on too long. We had, right. I bought a gong, and that was the second thing, we'd threaten them with the shepherd's hook or hit the gong, and everybody did it and they practiced their stuff. It was a really good exercise. And even my husband, who never, ever, ever takes the microphone, never does public speaking, he practiced it. He got up there and he did just fine.
Yeah. The first time I did open mic night, I was really nervous because I figured I'd have to measure up to everybody else who was up there. And, since I'm the FNG, I go last, right? If they have time. And I'll never forget it. The first 3 people were so unfunny that the audience was almost rooting against them. And my wife looked at me and said, "You got this.
Oh, yeah.
You're already funnier than all these guys put together." And so then all of them bombed out, and it's an hour and a half open mic night. By the time I got up there were 45 minutes left, right?
Did you take it all up? Did you just keep on going for 45 minutes?
It's a funny story. I mean, you can probably predict it based on having known me for 2 podcasts now. But I got up there and I did my tight 5, and I had to bring the audience back from, as Mike Tyson said, Bolivian. I mean, they were gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I was done and they were actually laughing again. By the way, this is why the guy who's the opening act at a comedy show for the headliner usually has to be incredibly funny and a major up-and-comer because he has to warm the audience up. So by the time the headliner comes on, they're already laughing. This was the opposite. I had to dig them out of the abyss. And in 5 minutes, I did that. And the guy who is the owner of the place just kind of gave me that little sign up in the air, going around, keep it going, right?
Yep.
And so I just started working the room like Buddy Hackett. You know what I mean? I was like, "You, sir, you look like a tourist. Where are you from?" And he goes, "I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania." I go, "Oh, Filthydelphia." And everybody starts laughing. And then from there, I literally just kept going, working the room. And I've been hooked ever since to being funny.
It's hilarious. You and I could do a really fun show together.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's a given. I love working with other people. I've taken guys out in field who really need to get out of their comfort zone, and it's either surprising them with stand-up mic night where they can be, up there doing comedy with me and they're horrified, but then glad they did it, or karaoke. Karaoke's the other one that's really an icebreaker.
I'll do karaoke with you anytime. When we come to San Antonio next, which hasn't happened in a long time, but it will, let's go do karaoke.
Yeah, our favorite karaoke place shut down, so we have to find a different one. But yeah. Emily and I, before, we got, too busy. Priorities, right? We used to
tell us, come on, what are you afraid of?
Yeah, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of losing my voice the next day and not being able to do podcasts. My wife and I used to be known citywide for shutting down the place at like 1:53 with a stirring rendition of the duet from Meatloaf, Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
Oh my God. I can't wait
to would crush it.
I really like your match. This is really cool. I like you and Emily together a lot.
Oh yeah. We're perfect for each other. And, it's funny because I always said to myself when I heard that song, if I could find a wife who could do that song karaoke with me, that would be my honey. And it's funny because she became that person after I married her. Right. Yeah. So it's kind of funny how life works. Anyway, this has been a fantastic conversation, and we could talk all day about all sorts of things. Gentlemen, this is what happens when people who have a combined total of a half century of dating and relationship expertise and experience come together. We talk about anything and everything, flirting, men and women meeting each other, being shy, whatever it takes, and a little bit about being too busy for women also mixed in there. But it's been a great show with a whole lot of very actionable information. And Julie, you're a true gem. And what I want to do is I want to send these guys to julieferman.com, where you can find out all about Julie Ferman, Cupid's coach. And you can certainly go to mountaintoppodcast.com/Ferman to get there too, if you want to get there the way we typically do around here, which is mountaintoppodcast.com/one simple word you can remember, which is in this case is Ferman, Ferman. But I told Julie ahead of time that I'm also going to put a folder in my server that's Furman for those of you who live in South Carolina and know the university, just in case you want to spell it that way. So mountaintoppodcast.com/Ferman. And when they go there, Julie, what are they going to find out? I bet you got lots of great things over there.
It's the best thing in the whole world. My husband calls it the lazy man's way to date because you just register. It's private. It's free to be registered. Nobody browses. And then I can find this young guy or this older guy, whoever he is, and consider him for referrals, whether he's spending money or not. I don't care. I want great men in my community.
And you have the Cupid's Coach podcast as well, right?
That's right. And the most recent one was with Scott McKay. What an incredible guy he is.
You're way too kind. You're a charmer. You're one of those charmers. And I'm
coqueta.
Yeah, I know this because I'm a charmer too, see?
Yeah.
Takes one to know one. Her name is Julie Ferman. Julie, what a delight. I appreciate you. I appreciate your work. And I definitely appreciate you stopping by and sharing your wisdom with these guys today.
Thank you, Scott. I loved being here. Have me back.
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this again real soon.
Anytime.
Yep. And gentlemen, be sure to go over to mountaintoppodcast.com. You can click the button at the upper right-hand corner, get on my calendar, and we can talk about you and the women who are not in your life yet, but will soon be. When you talk to me for free for 25 minutes, that's my initial consultation. That's what we do. Won't cost you a dime. You can also get in on the latest master classes. I do one every month. I have the entire catalog of the ones we've done thus far up there, and you might be able to get in on the latest one as well when you're on that website, which can be found at mountaintoppodcast.com/masterclass. Also want to give a shout out, as always, to our wonderful sponsors. Origin in Maine is Jocko Willink's company. The jeans and the boots remain the flagship in my mind, but now they've got hunting gear, BJJ gear if you guys are interested in that. All kinds of incredibly manly clothing and accessories and gear. It's just an amazing place over at Origin nowadays. You can check them out by going to mountaintoppodcast.com/Origin. Also, the guys at Hero Soap are coming out with new scents that make you smell like a man. As I've always told you, gentlemen, if you've never taken a shower with a female human being using their bath gel, you need to add that to your bucket list and get on over to mountaintopodcast.com/hero soap and get you some of that bath gel. Last but certainly not least, the everyday carry item that you have got to have in your pocket every day is the key port. You can stack up what's equivalent to the 21st century Swiss Army knife in new and exciting ways. I've got a light. I've got a pen. I've got all sorts of crazy things. I got a can opener on my keyport, and you can customize them with face plates of your choosing. Great stuff over at Keyport, mountaintopodcast.com/keyport. And when you partake of any of the goodies that my fine sponsors proffer, please use the code MOUNTAIN10 for an additional 10% off. And until I talk to you again real soon, this is Scott McKay from X&Y Communications in San Antonio, Texas. Be good out there.
The Mountaintop Podcast is produced by X&Y Communications. All rights reserved worldwide. Be sure to visit www.mountaintoppodcast.com for show notes. And while you're there, sign up for the free X&Y Communications newsletter for men. This is Ed Roy Odom speaking for the Mountaintop Podcast.